Yeah, so I've been shorting these highs on this Dow. So we're just going nowhere really. Huge big, seeing a lot of these just big bars at the open and then shuffling around. So we had that yesterday and today. Well, yesterday we didn't shuffle around. We retraced and dropped in the direction of the initial move, but yeah, today we are in a really tight range. So my 2-hour chart is above the January highs. We keep sitting here above these January highs, not doing a lot. So far this month, let's just talk about waves. So we've had a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3 waves. We completed at yesterday's lows. We completed a 5 and 3 wave move there. So now we are potentially starting again. Excuse me. So if we, so if this is a 5 and 3 wave move, in theory we should be doing, if this is really bullish, we should be starting another 5 wave move, but at the moment I'm shorting because this is, we've hit this most recent high. This is the all-time high, isn't it? We've hit this all-time high, so at the moment I'm selling into that little rally to see if we can close lower. So it's basic support and resistance. Sometimes us traders, and myself included, sometimes we just overcomplicate things. So my theme of today is just to look at the basics and just think about what this can, just if we get the basics right, then in theory we should be consistent, at the very least more consistent. I want to talk about trading reversals. I want to talk about the basics, and then I want to just open it up and have a think about what you guys are trading. Okay, so this is the Dow on a 2-hour chart. Let's look at the DAX, because this has been an incredible market. Very steep push higher. You won't believe they've had the worst manufacturing data in about 9 or 10 years, and yet this thing just keeps going. So it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we've only just completed a 5-wave move. So in theory, if we get a 1, 2, 3 wave correction, we should start again. So if we come back to, I don't know, 13.5, 13.6 and we hold, we could ultimately push up to 14k. So let's look at the basics on this one. If you drill down to, let's drill down to the daily. So all I've got, you've got this huge trendline support that came underneath it, underpinned it from September highs to these most recent lows. And we've got this huge, we're just literally coming in contact with a trend line that stemmed from the July highs, November, December. We've got a lower high here in early January. We're just, that's a lot of touches. Normally it's 3 and through, so you touch it 3 times, and that's resistance. That's very, very strong resistance. Now, every time you get closer to it in subsequent moves, that becomes weaker. So it's as if the market's chipping away at it, and ultimately this could break through here. Just going to manage to trade a second. Hang on. Yeah, so if we're having such a good sort of 1, 2, 3 wave move, we could, into the second half of this week, or in the second half of this week, in the remaining couple of days this week, break through. So it just goes to show anybody who's trading on fundamentals is not going to be engaged in this. Not quite. Okay, if you drill down, you can see we've not quite touched it yet. You can see also with this particular market and a lot of markets, 3 days on the upside. So you've got 2 big days, 3 big days. So we're sort of getting into the end of what could be a little run here. Short term, I mean. See if we do come back and hold that. Well, that's the area I was looking at, 500 or 600. If we do pull back to that, then that could keep going. Otherwise, at the moment, just keep buying pullbacks at the moment this week. So something like, excuse me, 650, yeah, 650, 700 is potentially all we're going to see on a pullback on that. And so it'd be interesting to see if we can break that 800 tomorrow. But all this is just counting the waves, putting in support and resistance, and using that in my trading. Okay, the other thing I've been looking at, I've been talking about in the room for the last couple of weeks, is oil. So oil is a really interesting daily chart here. I'll just pull this along. This pink band goes back to a head and shoulders reversal in what was end of December, end of 2018 into early 19. So you can see these are my projections. I'm looking for $55 on oil. If we can hold here, so I'm looking to buy 50-50 again tomorrow. Looking to see if that can eventually wind its way up. I kept buying the lows on this one. It's a typical double bottom. It's fallen into a major support area here, as you can see from this that January 19 level. And cyclically, this is a time of year when oil tends to find support and build up, because you're looking at the contracts for the summer drive season. So a lot of the the spring, Easter, and summer dry season, tends to drive the price up from after December into January and into April, May. So nice pattern, nice bottoming pattern. We could, if we do get a pullback to this 50-50, and get a relatively tight stop on that, and then see if that can ride up to that 55. Problem is, the virus is, I think if it wasn't for the virus, we probably would be a lot higher than this now. Obviously, China are big consumers. Well, they are the biggest consumer of commodities now. And so the virus has dented all commodities, this one included. So if you drill down to smaller time frames, you can see how we had this wave to the upside on this one. So all I've been doing is, pretty basic trading, just buying dips, getting little runs, buying dips, getting little runs. Just bought a dip there, managed to stop, and it rolled over. I'm sure I probably bought a dip there. That's back in the last week, isn't it? Certainly bought dips on these 3 days, and we dipped quite nicely the back end of yesterday, just before the close yesterday. So we finally got this, some sort of breakout here. So we've had a couple of breakouts, one decent one there and one decent one there. So it's definitely struggling, but it's well worth buying something like this to see if you can eventually get some sort of spike higher. But anybody trading anything else? Anybody trading anything interesting? Well, whatever you're trading, anything different? Different other than what I've talked about. That's what I mean. Not different as in wacky and unique, just different from what I've been talking about. So this is gold. Just struggled back in January into February. The moves are fairly. I think this needs a decent pullback. I think it's too high for now. Struggling. So if we get a dip into 1520, 1550, 1540, that's where I would want to buy and hold. I'd like to see it break the support and then potentially wriggle around and put in a buy around there. As for day trading, let's have a quick look at anybody day trading Forex. I haven't looked at, let's have a look at 5 minutes. Let's have a look at a scalper's time frame. So this is going to help. Euro, US dollar. So let's mark off the London Open. So London Open was up here. That was the London Open range. So we looked okay until about 10:30. And then we just dropped. That's a very nice sort of structural breakdown there. That's what you want for a good short. So that had all of the novices buying up here, when all the time it was just selling into resistance and rolling over. But if so, we get sort of 10:30, 11 o'clock breakdown. That's a good European reversal time for me. If you want to trade anything to do with Europe, then keep an eye on 10:30, 11 o'clock. So DAX and Forex and so on, you tend to find that it's still selling into there. Let's have a look at the 2 hour. Wow, this looks, look at that pattern. Interesting that before this sell-off started, we had this really nice push to the upside. So it looked all nice and bullish, but all we were doing is, that's a sell signal for me. Well, it's one sell signal. So we had an initial drop. So from that sell signal, broke that support, and they bounced it, retraced right into that zone, and then we just flog it. Look at that. You don't often get a trend line that's that tight. That looks as if that's going to parity, isn't it? That's very close to parity. So that's good for the DAX. The DAX and Euro are very divergent. So it's that's one of the reasons why the DAX is so good at the moment. Right, okay, let's talk about holding positions then. Let's talk about bigger moves. I think, and I'll see if you know full well what I do with my 1 hour chart. What I think you need to do is, this is a 2 hour chart with zones. If you want to buy and hold something, then I think you need to zone your charts up. And it's a common problem. You know, where is the best entry, and how can you hold something? Well, if you look at this had a huge move up here on this Dow. So from the early part of February into the 6th of February, which was the first Thursday, huge move here. So if you're going to buy and hold something, you find a good trend. Well, there's a good trend. So that dip, this was this Sunday opening, I think. Yeah, it must have been this Sunday opening. It's dipped right into this zone I got marked here. So that was resistance. This is now support. There's resistance here and here. It's a couple of, three-way move under that. This is now support. So that's the only way you're going to find places to buy and hold, is if your charts are marked up properly and you can identify pullback areas in a decent trend. I think again, the other aspect of holding is position size. So go in nice and small, position size and stop. So you need to have a good sort of good 50 pip stop under there at least. Ideally, you need to come right underneath this next level. So if you can pick the spot, put an order in the book. I know you work full time anyway, so mark your charts out, put an order in the book, get a decent stop, nice small position, because even a small position, this is a decent move. This is 28,900, and we've been right up here to 29,530. So this is a 600 pip range here to get back to that resistance. So you're looking at a 600 pip range for a potential 50 pip stop. So the risk reward ratio is brilliant. And if it's a small position, you get a 50 pip stop out, then it's not too big a deal. Obviously nobody wants to stop out, but at least if you have a tiny position, you can afford to give it a lot of room. And that's the same with oil. Mark your charts up, find out where all the support is. That's the zonal support down there. So we didn't, after the 4th of Feb, we didn't break under that 49.50 at all. And in fact, we had a decent buy signal on Monday, and we had a buy signal at the end just before the close yesterday. Okay. Ken, what markets do you choose? Do you trade indices? Do you trade at all? I presume you trade. You've been joining us for a few weeks now. What are you trading, Ken? Anybody wants to use the mic, that's fine. You can turn the mics on. I'll turn it on for you if you want to chat. Otherwise, just use the text box. So let's just see where we are in. So my short in the Dow is working. Potential double top. I mean, you know, the Dow's had a really good run. So you've got zonal support into zonal resistance, and that is currently dipping nicely. So that's a simple message. It's all about just prep. You know, the profits are in the prep. Oil, gold, indices, okay, and pound pairs. Okay, let's have a look at the pound. I haven't studied the pound closely. Right, so this one. Gosh, huge spike up. Look at that on the election result. We've been selling off ever since. That's incredible, isn't it? There's the main trend line. So we looked good into the third, fourth week of January. And then we really struggled again. Where do I think this is going to go? So, you know, we are potentially trying to find a bottom here. I say potentially, we have potentially found a bottom here. Since we've touched 128.78, if we hold this 129.50, we could. I would start buying 129.50, 129.60. I would potentially start buying this to see if we can do a little, got a little sort of small scale apex down there. So whichever way we come out of that little apex could give us a decent move. Had a similar little apex down here. Interesting how we breached it before we pushed higher. Came right underneath it, right back down to support. And then closed right into that resistance, and then just really had a good run in the back end of Jan. You're looking at 120.297. Right. That does look as if that's about to perk up to me. It's right, it could go either way. But certainly if we break that high, I would expect that to, could see another test of 129.50. But if we close higher into tonight, that's budget. It's US budget, isn't it? At 7 o'clock. But I've not touched gold very much recently. I've just not been interested in what I'm seeing at the moment in gold. That's kicked off early Feb very nicely, so that support is holding. So yeah, we're in a bit of a decision area for a lot of these commodities at the moment. That at the moment that looks as if that could pop higher. A nice head and shoulders pattern down here. So we look higher on the 4th of Feb, drop hard on the 5th, and then get a buy signal overnight on the 6th. So we look as if we could come and see 1576 quite soon. Yeah, so that's where I am with everything at the moment. So be interesting to hear from you, Ken, about your trading strategy. What are you, a scalper, a day trader, intra-week? Again, if you want to chat, put the mic on, that's fine. Otherwise, it'd be interesting just to hear a few lines, a little bit about your style of trading. So again, let's see if you're looking to buy and hold something intra-week, then something like gold could be good to buy and hold. That's I don't normally bother with head and shoulders patterns, but that's a very nice one there. That's potentially a nice pattern there. So if we can hold this and sustain this, we could power up to 75.80. Okay, so this dropped heavily Wednesday, 5th, only to see that move up into this Monday. So these dips here at the moment, breakfast this morning saw that dip right into that. So that was a good one to buy this morning. So my strategy with oil has literally just been buy the lows. Okay, this is where I'm just sort of opening up to questions. And anybody got any questions, or anybody happy to share your, talk about your style of trading? Anybody got any? Well, let's just ask those two questions initially. Yeah, I was talking about 50-50 for oil. Let me put an alarm on 50-50. So I'm hoping it comes back under that 50-51, so I can buy that. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I think the thing with gold is to look at bigger time frames. I think, as day traders, you can get totally sucked into the smaller time frames and not do enough prep for the bigger time frames. I think with something like gold, I think there's enough structure here to work out what they are potentially going to do with it. If you look at this late January area here, this was, so we gapped up here on the 5th of Jan. So what we ended up doing here on the, was just backfilling. I tend to find the market always overdoes the backfilling. So here on the Tuesday the 14th of Jan, we overdo it typically, and then you get that structure. There's the structure in gold. It happens overnight, so you either put an order in the book down there, or you just buy it in when you're awake. So you day trade using 30 and 5 minute. Oh, you live in New Zealand, right? Okay. Are you logging on from New Zealand? Okay. I've got an old school buddy who has been living out there. He's been living out there for about 25 years, I think, at least. Meet up with him in London for lunch every now and again. Oh, okay, wow. So hence the reason why you're trading Asian session. Okay. Yeah, so you are how many hours ahead are you? You're 12 hours ahead, aren't you? At least. Yeah, you're 13, this time of year you're 13 hours ahead, aren't you? So at the moment it is 7:30 in the morning. Yeah, just gonna say 7:30 in the morning. Okay. I just came to that conclusion, yeah. Right, so this is the second half of the New York session for you as you just got up and had your cup of tea or coffee. Okay, so that gives you good opportunities in the Dow. At that sort of time, the Dow is perking up for you. So here's a 10-minute chart on the Dow. So you could mark off the open. And there's the decent support in the Dow. So you could, so okay, so by the time, yeah, okay. So by the time you are coming to your screen, so you can see these lows getting bought here. It's at 445. That's really perking up. So if we now break so we've got all that support at the bottom, and we saw that at 4:40 our UK time. So you were still in bed at that stage. So yeah, this is it's 1:30 New York time, 6:30 in the evening UK times. This is a good. So you've got 2.5 hours before the Dow closes, so you can catch, and you quite often get decent moves in that last period. And today looks like one of those days where you could get a decent move. So I've been shorting up here. I actually stopped just a short while ago to take my trade off. But in the meantime, because I knew we were hitting this support level. But in the meantime, that looks as if that could really perk up. So if we break that high, we could see quite a nice bust up. "30 minutes is a good, this is my 30-minute chart. So we were struggling around all this resistance, but at the moment we are seeing that bought with the potential to close higher into the data at 7 o'clock or in 25 minutes. Okay. Good. Well, I've been talking for about 35 minutes, so that's all I was going to go through, really. So just to summarize, I've gone through some pretty basic support and resistance, talked about the need to make sure your charts are up to date, and looked at how I sort of zone out support and resistance and look for the patterns, chart patterns that could give me a good run. And talked about how to find a position in the early part of the week and potentially hold it. Yeah, thanks for that feedback, Ken. Appreciate it. Yeah, I must get down to your half of the globe. Got a lot of relatives in Perth. I've never even been over there. They come up this side of the world every now and again, but haven't been down to that half of the hemisphere yet. Good. Okay, so any further questions? I'm just doing a screen grab. Okay, well listen, I'm going to just break off and see if there's any trades. Well, there are definitely some trades into the back end of today. So I'm going to just tail off and see if there's some more trades in the Dow, and I'll talk to you this time next week. By all means, email me or contact me if you've got any other questions or any ideas for talks in the coming weeks, next week or the coming weeks. And thanks for your company, and enjoy the rest of your day, especially you, Ken, as your days are starting. And I will talk to you then. Many thanks. Bye.